welcome to the Australian Gamers Show. I'm Yug.
I'm Matt.
And tonight we're going to be talking about E3 goodness.
We're going to be talking about child porn.
And Duke Nukem Forever.
I thought I'd get into child porn.
Yeah, no, I was hoping you'd actually bring that one up. That makes sense.
There will be context to that later.
Yeah.
Probably.
You didn't just randomly want to talk about child porn.
No, I wanted to talk about something really specific. Actually, you know what? Seeing as that's come up and seeing as people...
What? Why wait till later? Come on.
Well, the reason...
Or should we wait till later to build the anticipation and people, you leave the best bit till last? I don't want to suggest that the child porn is the best bit of this podcast.
I do. No, I just... we could do that, but I think what we would end up instead is, when you're watching something and they're like, later in this episode, blah,
yes.
blah, blah, and then it actually comes and you're like, oh, yeah, that's right.
So are we building it up too much now?
Yeah, I think we are, which is why I think we
just
should
jump
probably
straight into
jump straight into it.
Okay, child porn.
Now, it's... The Nintendo 3DS is, of course, the platform of choice for child porn. It's interesting that with something else we should probably talk about as a topic, and I will explain that. Don't worry.
Yeah.
With the guidelines, the R18 rating guidelines that came out. Now, we don't necessarily need to talk about it because it's been discussed a fair bit.
Yep.
Was it a suggested draft guidelines?
Draft guidelines, yep.
The draft guidelines came out, and of course, the Australian Christian lobby jumped up and down and said there will be a new genre of child porn games released.
Oh,
repeatedly.
Specifically on the child porn.
No, they
stuff.
didn't say that. I'm kind of adding.
Oh, right, okay.
I colour it.
And fair enough.
I'm possibly mischaracterising them, but they have suggested that there's going to be a new wave of disgraceful games.
And we focus on the entertainment rather than the facts, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Make it a bit more colourful.
If you haven't learned that by now, you really haven't been listening.
Anyway, continue.
They're right. Turns out, just after the draft guidelines were announced, didn't even have to be approved. Didn't even have to go through. Just the announcement of the potential for an R18 rating was enough to see a child pornography game released in Australia.
Hold on. What? No.
Okay, I probably need to back up a little bit. In Sweden and in Norway...
I know what you're talking about now. This is about Dead or Alive.
Dead or Alive Dimensions
yes.
on the 3DS has been banned as child pornography.
Okay. Why?
Well, for a start, I find that confusing because as far as I know, Sweden and Norway are actually quite fond of child pornography.
Oh.
No, I'm thinking of Amsterdam.
A bit of a generalisation,
but No, they do have quite positive laws on underage models.
Right. Okay.
It's quite.
That was
quite
a
fluid.
very diplomatic way to put it. But
no, well, actually, I'm trying to put it as literal as possible. That is actually the case. They don't. They differentiate between raping a child and looking at a photo of a girl who's 17 instead of 18. Like they're quite distinct on that difference, which I think we sometimes lose track of.
How does this get to Dead or Alive? Because I should quantify this by saying I've actually played a lot of Dead or Alive Dimensions on the 3DS.
I'm interested in it. It was the first game I've seen on the 3DS that made me go, "Do I want a 3DS?"
Are you a big Dead or Alive fan, or?
No, I quite like fighting games in general, and I've liked Dead or Alive a little bit in the past.
Yeah.
I think that we played a reasonable amount of the Xbox 360 version.
We did. Tell you what, if you're really fascinated and interested in the backstory of all the characters and to actually follow their journeys and all this kind of stuff, then play Dead or Alive Dimensions.
I see.
Yeah.
Though in fairness, you're not.
No.
And I'm just going to take that as a given.
Yeah, but again, I at no point while playing it did I go, wow, there's child pornography in this. So
you didn't play it right, apparently.
Obviously.
Because there's the issue with it is there is a like a camera mode, like a model mode. You know how they had that in Extreme Beach Volleyball? They had this...
No, in this one in particular, you as you go through, you unlock the characters, and they're different outfits, and also different poses. Yeah. So you can actually switch between the different poses and outfits and things like this. And in the 3DS, of course, it's like this. It's like the trophy system. It's actually looks. It's like they're a trophy, and you rotate around it.
Oh, fantastic!
And so you can get all angles and everything like that. But
because the women in Dead or Alive were not already trophies, they've made them actual literal trophies. That's fantastic.
Yeah, pretty much. So but I'm still not seeing the child pornography link.
You know what? I'm proud of you because that clearly means you didn't look up anyone's skirt, which you can do.
I did.
Oh, okay. Sorry. When I said proud, I actually meant disappointed.
Right. Hey, glad I lived up to your expectations.
No, and some of the girls, because you can look up some of their skirts, and some of the girls are
all of their skirts, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, and some of the girls, but that doesn't matter if they're old enough.
Underage.
Some of them are underage.
Their profiles say they're like 15, 16?
Something like that, I think.
Right.
15, 16. So that makes them officially child porn, because you're looking up the skirt of an under 18.
Wow.
So it's funny that a game can be banned in Sweden and Norway, some of the most progressive countries in the world, though oddly regressive about child porn, apparently.
Seems so.
And yet is a PG rated here. I find it really interesting that there's such a gulf of cultural values that something can be PG or banned.
I would just not relate that particular trophy camera mode to child porn. Maybe if you were already a pedophile, I don't know. Maybe then you could see
Maybe
the
that's
link.
the problem. Maybe all the people in
Sweden are pedophiles.
No. Well, that wasn't what I was going to say. I was going to say the lawmakers were pedophiles, and they went in there and went, "Look, I looked up this girl's skirt, jacked off, clearly pedophilia."
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Did it for me.
This is a problem.
Yep.
Maybe
that's what we need. Maybe we need to have a better understanding of things like pedophilia and bestiality.
Maybe
and the really dark side.
Maybe we need more pedophiles in government.
Yeah. We need to give them the power to really have people in positions that really understand and say
the mindset. Yeah.
So they can look at photos and so on. And for example, there's the quite famous case in Australia where it was alleged that they were going to try to ban porn videos that had girls with small breasts.
Yes.
Now, that was just a silly moral panic that could happen. Mm-hmm. Of course, it was never going to. But see, if we had that situation, we could have some pedophiles, and we could go to the pedophiles, governmental pedophile council, and say, "Is this pedophilia?" And they can say, "Doesn't do it for me. Too old."
That's right.
And we'd be able to make clear, informed judgments.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we've kicked this podcast off on the right way. This is great, Matt. Yeah.
Let's move on then to...
Can we move away from your pedophiles and sexual
depravity
and depravity and
irresponsible
hedonistic
behavior,
sort of things to Duke Nukem.
Yeah, let's do that.
So Duke Nukem Forever has been released by the time you're listening to this podcast, and we're recording this podcast on Thursday night, mind you. I do find it fascinating that it has broken street date.
Yes, I was going to say that.
And I think that this one could be a bit of an issue because it comes out on the June 10th. It was supposed to come out on June 10th. Comes out on June the 14th in the States.
Uh-huh.
And usually when someone breaks street date on an Australian released game, it's not that big a deal or anything like that. But this is Duke Nukem Forever, and this is 4 days before the States.
Yeah.
So for EB Australia, who were the first ones to...
Oh, they broke street date?
I don't
Usually
think
what happens is that EB... I've heard they have this as a kind of a policy that they do.
Try and get another independent.
Try and get an independent. They send someone in to buy a game that they know they shouldn't be selling, and then they use that as an excuse to break street date.
Pretty much. And then everyone else Allegedly. Because if you do break street date, there's huge fines and all this kind of stuff. It's quite serious.
Yeah, there's also there's kind of a big PR issue with it as well. It hurts the relationship a lot.
It also affects people like me doing the Manabar stuff. And it's hey, we got this exclusive event where you can play the game before it comes out.
Yeah.
And then it comes out. So it loses a lot of
So all the
impact.
people who would have come to that event are now at home playing the fucking game.
That's right. Yeah. That's great.
So that's fun.
Anyway, Duke Nukem Forever. I've actually been playing it for the last couple of days. We've got our review copies, which is good. And I'm not going to give a whole wrap-up or review. I haven't finished the game yet. I'm going to keep playing it. I am a huge fan of the original Duke Nukem 3D on the PC. Got the Atomic Edition. I love the whole sense of the Duke Nukem character and universe, the completely over-the-top, ridiculous, hedonistic sort of character and the fucking around and interacting with all the objects in the world. Interesting, I was reading a retrospective on a website about Duke Nukem, and they were interviewing one of the designers on it, whatever. And he's like, yeah, one of the things that really worked with Duke Nukem is all the little interactive environments around the game. Because no one remembers shooting their 100th pig cop, but everyone remembers the pool table and fucking around.
Yeah.
Or paying the stripper, money to...
flushing the toilet.
Exactly. It's all that fuck around stuff that really kind of made the game. Also, another interesting thing I actually read was Bruce Campbell being really pissed off about the Duke character. Campbell.
Yeah.
Being really pissed off about the Duke character actually ripping off lines from his Darkness character.
They stole quite a few lines from him, but they did steal lines from other places as well.
They did, but in this particular interview, he had just lent his voice to a game called Tachyon the Fringe.
Right.
And the way he phrased it, he's like, yeah, I'm quite, pissed off about Duke Nukem ripping off my line, character and all this kind of stuff, but it doesn't matter because Tachyon the Fringe is going to blow it out of the water.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
What game was that again?
Yeah, I may have even got it wrong.
I was talking to Yahtzee about this the other day. Actually, we were talking about how derivative the character of Serious Sam is from Duke Nukem. But then again, he's derivative of Ash. So it's interesting to see that sort of unbroken chain of macho happening there.
Exactly. But I just want to give a couple of opinions about Duke Nukem Forever. And I'm sure... I hope everyone goes and buys it, just because I'm a big fan of Gearbox software and what they've actually done getting on board. And they're such a passionate developer and all this kind of stuff. I like the idea of supporting them.
Okay, the moral of the story here is that you should buy... I'm going to say it. Really bad games. Because you like the developer and you want to give them...
Hold on. I didn't say it was a really bad game.
No, I did.
Have you played much of it?
I've played a bit. I've played enough. Now, I would like to clarify this by saying this is a preemptive assessment of a game, and I will give it more time, and I think it deserves more of time. But by the time you hear this, you'll undoubtedly be able to see reviews on other websites or on the internet. And you'll find they probably agree.
I am dying to give Duke Nukem the benefit of the doubt. Purely, and this is from my personal perspective, I want to like it so much.
Yeah.
And the issue is I'm playing through it, and there are so many things about the game. The game has so many problems that were the same problems that the original Duke Nukem 3D had. For example, you'll go through some levels that have so many interactive environment objects and things like that, and then other levels which have fuck all interactive objects and are just like big, like almost library sessions from Halo sort of thing. Like they're just big trudge matches. The original had that, so does this. But there's so many elements in the new one, like even when you look in the mirror and you jump up and down, you can see the Duke character jumping up and down. It is so badly animated, like his whole top body stays while the bottom legs cocked at a 45-degree angle, could twist around sort of thing. But it's charming. There's something about that that makes me feel good that I'm actually playing a retro kind of game. So, but there's this constant battle in my head going, I've had 12 years worth of FPSs since the last Duke Nukem 3D that have given me these particular expectations, and this is supposed to be a throwback to that old style of games, and it is a lot harder than people are used to. I think most people that go on a normal difficulty level are going to struggle quite a bit to play this. It is quite brutal, and the load times are unbelievably long, and that's a flaw. That is a flaw. That is a serious flaw, and that's a big one. For about the first 3 or 4 hours, I started to really get disillusioned. Then I got to a strip club.
Oh yeah.
Yep. I got to smack some titties around, so that's all good fun.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
You can actually there's certain levels where there's these alien H.G. Geiger sort of alien infused level design sort of thing, and there's these big xenomorph sort of pipe systems sort of running through it, and some of them have breasts growing out of them, which you go up, press X, and you slap them titties.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
and that also increases your ego.
Of course it does.
Of course it does.
Here's a question for you.
Yeah.
Why isn't it banned?
I
I asked that for a specific reason. You can use steroids and they make you stronger. That is illegal.
They didn't name the steroids.
So?
They didn't say it's morphine.
So? It's still drugs.
It also doesn't make you stronger.
It does.
Yes, it does make you stronger.
It increases your melee attack significantly, and it doesn't actually matter that It doesn't actually matter that they don't name it, as far as I can tell. It doesn't matter that it makes you stronger. It matters that there's a reward. That's what the specific wording says.
Yep.
There clearly is a reward,
and
there clearly is drugs, and there clearly is drugs giving you a reward. This game should be banned by our standards.
Probably.
I just find it weird that they're so inconsistent on that. I mean...
No, that's completely valid and fair enough. I mean, for God's sake, one of the reasons Fallout 3 was actually banned initially was because you used morphine to heal yourself.
Yeah, and they named it Stimpaks, and everyone was fine. I guess maybe that's the thing. Maybe it does make a difference if they're a real drug or a named drug.
Or the other thing is Fallout 3 is trying to be like a realistic kind of
context
game, even
does
though
make
it is
a difference.
Context does make a difference, whereas Duke Nukem
fantasy
is so obviously over the top and ridiculous. Well, then again, I don't know. Yeah. But it is out, it is here, and you can go buy it right now and give it a go, and I will be fascinated to read the reviews. I think most people will be heavily critical of it, and that's probably fair enough. But I think there's going to be a lot of people that will be overly charmed with the nostalgia value, and also the throwback in terms of difficulty.
See, I'm okay with that. I don't have a problem with that. I find it really interesting that the question of whether you look at something's just overall bodginess, and you have to admit there are levels of bodginess involved here.
A huge degree. To a huge degree.
And you have to ask yourself whether that's an awesome stylistic choice as a reference to the old games, or did they just fuck up?
Most of them aren't, but as in most of them, it's not a reference to a stylistic thing. And this was the thing about Duke Nukem Forever. It never needed to look good. It never needed to be well animated. It never needed to be a perfect game by any means. All I wanted out of Duke Nukem was something that was constantly fun and entertaining, and obscene and ridiculous,
and ever released.
Yeah, that's right on the top of the list. What I never wanted out of a Duke game, and what is unforgivable, is sequences in the game that are dull and boring.
Yeah, that's a problem.
And unfortunately, there are sequences in the game like that, and that's unforgivable because it then highlights every other flaw.
Yeah, fair enough. It's one of those things where if you're enjoying something, you can overlook a lot. If you're not, you're going to see everything.
Yeah, unfortunately. But I haven't finished it yet. I'm, quite a way through it. But I want to finish it. I want to see how it goes. And also, I want to love this game so much. So I'm going to give it a chance right to the end. E3. You
like my segue there? Just say a thing.
That was a shithouse segue. But E3, obviously it's finished. It happened over in LA.
Yeah.
And we had Jay and Luke over there, if you've been listening to their stuff.
Yeah.
Over the last couple of days. I haven't. I've had no laptop for the last 2 days. So I've been out of it, unfortunately.
I would like to apologise to both them and to everyone. We put up one of the podcasts they sent over, and it seems to be missing the last 10 minutes or so. So I'll have to fix that. I don't know what's gone wrong there.
Okay, yep.
I'll have to fix that. I haven't fixed that yet, but I will have by the time everyone hears this. Much to talk about from E3. So let's jump into that.
At E3, yeah. Well,
and then we'll have to do our traditional Who Won E3.
Who won E3? So let's kick off with the first press conference that happened. I mean, if we're going to actually talk about the press conferences
first. Yeah, let's do that, because they're usually the big deal.
Microsoft. And have you watched all three press conferences?
No, I watched Nintendo's, and I've got the highlights from the other two, but I haven't watched them.
I actually watched them all. And Microsoft. Now, Microsoft, I think it was fascinating for them actually coming into this because they didn't have anything massive or new to announce, and they're not in a Sony situation where they kind of have an elephant in the room.
No, they've got neither anything big that's good nor bad.
Yeah, and I think they kind of just capitalised on that by just coasting through with cool stuff. Yeah. Just generally cool stuff. Obviously focusing on a lot of Kinect stuff. Yeah. Which is good to see some functionality, a bit more functionality out of that, especially focusing on some more hardcore games. The Ghost Recon stuff was the most impressive thing out of the entire Microsoft conference.
Some of the voice stuff for that is actually really impressive from a technical point of view.
Unfortunately, of course, the voice isn't active on Kinect here in Australia.
Yeah, well, they reckon they'll get that working by the end of the year. I'll be really interested to see whether you have to sound like Steve Irwin to get the damn thing to work.
Do you know, I've been told that apparently if you sign up with an American Xbox account, the voice on Kinect works fine. Here.
Yeah, I think the problem is that it sometimes doesn't. Like if you're a bogan from North Queensland, you may struggle.
Is that because they need to actually tweak the software to accommodate accents?
Well, because people say things quite differently, and even in the US, there's quite a broad range of accents from Boston to New York to a pretty wide general population. But they've done that.
Boston is in New York.
Sorry,
isn't Boston in New York?
Boston, Massachusetts, and New York in, well...
Oh, I was thinking Brooklyn. Sorry. Anyway, keep going.
Good Lord. There's a pretty wide range of accents in the US, and they've catered to them, and Australia doesn't have that broader range, but they've kind of chickened out a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
And just gone, we're just not going to give it to you. Like we're not going to give you Netflix. Fuck you guys.
I was actually kind of talking to some of the GameSpot boys that are over there at the moment. And one of the questions they asked them was about the Kinect voice support and things like that. Apparently, they asked some of the Microsoft representatives about, when's the voice support going to be available here in Australia? And they were very quick to jump, before the end of the year. And also very quick to jump onto the fact, but, not having voice support for these games, that doesn't limit the experience at all. Because you can still have the same experience with the controller and get all the functionality out of these games as you would if you didn't have the voice support. And I can see why they're trying to say that, because obviously these games getting released in Australia, but you just shot yourself in the foot trying to actually promote this new technology. What the hell?
I don't think so necessarily. I think people still like it as a nice bonus. To say that you can do it another way doesn't don't think diminish the technology at all. I
just thought that was a bit of an interesting tact for them to actually take in terms of how to actually promote things. But games from Microsoft, obviously the first thing they showed was Modern Warfare 3, which I find it fascinating now that everyone's jumping on the Modern Warfare 3 is looking shit compared to Battlefield 3 and actually Battlefield 3.
Yeah, there's always a new king.
Yeah, and footage from the new Tomb Raider game, which it looks very Uncharted-ish.
It does look very Uncharted.
I'm not against that.
No, I mean neither. I think it's reasonable for a game as good as Uncharted to inspire.
And considering that when Uncharted came out, people were very much like,
I know,
it's kind of inspired by the Tomb Raider-ish.
Funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
The circle of life.
I thought Microsoft's presentation was solid for who they are and what they showed, and of course the Gears of War, 3 with Ice Cube playing it alongside Cliffy B, which was entertaining and cool, showing off the co-op stuff. Look, Microsoft, I thought it was pretty solid all round. Good on them.
They don't have to do all that much.
Not fucking up is actually a pretty good thing for a company to do.
I know.
These days, which is good. But nothing hugely grabbed me and excited me and went, oh my god, that's amazing. Probably the only thing was that Ghost Recon stuff. Yeah.
I think we should move on to Sony. Not because I don't want to talk about Nintendo, but rather because I do.
Of course. Sony
had the really big handicap that, I don't know if you've heard, but they had some network issues for a while. Yeah.
Really?
Something they got hacked. Something
hacked.
Hacked. Yeah, that was it. They got hacked. I don't know what that means, but apparently it means they just give out credit card numbers like candy.
Oh, that's nice of them. Do we get some?
Well, someone got mine.
Oh, right. And mine?
Probably.
Cool. Okay. Well, they could take it for all it's worth.
Sony got the living shit hacked out of them, and they lost their network for a little while. But it's all back, and everything's fine, kids.
Yeah, that's right. It was kind of good. Jack Tretton, who was the one that kind of hosted the Sony presentation, right in the opening, he pretty much came out and said, "This isn't the first time I've had to come out on stage at an E3 where there's been an elephant in the room in terms of the network outage."
What was he referencing?
The hacking of the...
No, what was he referencing by saying it wasn't the first?
I don't know. I was thinking about that.
If anyone knows, let us know, because I'm curious now.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's funny, Sony actually kind of did have to come out and say, yeah, look, we know, guys. And take it on the chin and so on, but... that doesn't fucking fix it. You lost my fucking credit card details. I don't know who's got them, and I don't know who's got my personal information.
To be fair...
And no, I'm not interested in being fair.
Okay.
And they've done it 3 times since. They are getting hacked left, right, and centre. The last lot of data they lost had plain text fucking passwords in it. That is retarded and irresponsible, and they need to get their shit together on security in all of their departments. It was Sony Pictures last time. Everything Sony owns, every brand and every product needs to get their shit together on security because they are being massively targeted. And if they haven't learned that, they're stupider than I thought.
It is interesting that I think is it Japan and there's another country that have actually banned Sony from restoring their network.
Really?
Yeah, pretty much.
That I had not heard.
They've pretty much banned them from restoring the network until they are I think it's the government that's actually enforced this until they are satisfied with the security protocols around the.
Wow, that's interesting.
Network.
It's easy to forget. You know, we as gamers go, oh, that sucks. The network's down. Well, the network's down. Sony's network, PSN down. Blah blah blah. That's a much lesser problem than the loss of the data. The leaking of this private information is the biggest privacy breach in history, and it's easy to forget that, or in 25 years or something like that. Like, this is a massive problem, and it just goes to show how safe your data isn't with any of these people. And this was Sony in this case, but it could have been Microsoft, and it could have been Nintendo.
God, I don't even want to say this because I'm not sure. Have you heard anything about Nintendo being attacked or focused or targeted or anything like that? Okay, well, never mind, because I don't think they even store credit card details.
I think they probably would have to for the Wii Store. No, if you don't have to put them in every time, then
you do have to put it in every time.
Your credit card details have to go in every fucking time.
Every time.
Oh, well, that's even worse.
Well, it's probably more secure.
It is more secure, but there's always a balance of security and convenience.
Well, yeah. Anyway, let's. Yes, you're right, and all this kind of stuff. But let's kind of focus on the Sony presentation. All right,
let's move on.
And the stuff that they talked about, and because there's more little hiccups that they actually had in their conference that I won't get to.
Oh, really interesting. They had really one big thing that they wanted to talk about, which was the NPG,
the PlayStation Vita.
Yeah, now known as the PlayStation Vita or Vita.
Really? Okay.
Well, that's the question. I've heard people say they weren't sure.
Vita. It's Vita.
Is it?
Yeah.
Vita.
They said it's Vita.
So you eat Vita Wits?
Yes, I eat Vita Wits all the time. Every day. Did you ever used to smear Vegemite on your Vita Brits?
No, I didn't eat that.
Okay,
I was a Weetabix kid. Despite hating Sanitarium.
Right, okay. Anyway, you're right, there's the PlayStation Vita, but there was more than that. Let's get to the PlayStation Vita at the end of this, because there were a whole bunch of other stuff that they announced, especially, obviously, stuff with the PlayStation Move.
Yeah.
A lot more games focused on... Oh, you know what? I just want to jump back a second to Microsoft for just 1 second and say that their much-hyped Star Wars game on Kinect is shit. Looks shit. Really? And I don't know how they would make it better, don't get me wrong, but... Come on, it's basically an on-rails shooter swingy thing.
I saw early video of it and just kind of went, interesting what they could do with it, and I think this will be shit.
I don't know how they would successfully actually do a Star Wars game, because of course you don't have that feedback when you actually swing something around, which is the fundamental problem of Kinect, but it's just, then again, hey, great, this is probably going to appeal to that whole new generation of kids that grow up not even realizing that there is an original trilogy, or actually preferring episode 2 and 3. And
what do you mean?
There are people I have met that actually have watched the original Star Wars trilogy. People I've met now and no longer associate with.
Yeah, of course.
That have watched the original trilogy and go, I didn't really like it. It was kind of a bit shit.
Yeah, it's a bit dodgy.
But compared to the new ones.
The first ones. Yeah, the first 3.
The first ones.
Yeah.
The first Star Wars movies.
Compared to the first 3.
Fuck them. But anyway, so it does seem to focus on the Clone Wars and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. The Clone Wars is inherently not...
Yeah, anyway, back to Sony. So some of the other announcements they had, obviously with the PlayStation Move stuff, I'll get to that in a second. I actually want to talk about one of the other cool things, which I actually do think is a really cool piece of technology, and that is their 24-inch PlayStation branded TV.
That is very cool. Yes, I agree. Let's talk about that at length.
So this is a 24-inch TV that's being sold by Sony. It allows 2 people wearing glasses to look at the same screen and see 2 separate images.
Yeah, so co-op play.
Co-op play on the same screen, but forget this split screen stuff. Full screen for 2 different players. Now, 24 inches. Don't get me wrong. It's probably not the kind of TV that's going to sit in the middle of your living room and replace your current 42-inch TV.
I think that they've done it that way because they can't quite yet do bigger.
Probably not.
And I think that they've initially probably just filling out the market, and as they do and as they master the technology, we'll get bigger and bigger ones.
I mean, even when they announced it on stage, they were saying, this is the perfect kind of TV for your bedroom, the kids' room, or they didn't say your lounge room, specifically, and they know that, and that's fine. But it is a very cool piece of technology.
It is really interesting. It is really cool. And here's an implication you may not have thought of.
Shit. Okay.
If you can see different views, so I'm this player, you're this player. What is stopping you seeing a totally different image?
What do you mean?
What is stopping you from watching the OC or something like you normally would, while I watch, the football or something manly like I do?
I don't know.
Isn't that an interesting thought, though, that you could potentially both be watching different things on the same screen?
That could really usurp Nintendo's whole thing with their Wii U in terms of if someone else wants to use the TV, you can kind of port over. And I'll get to that in a sec, but that's interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. I saw that someone.
My only problem with the whole 3D stuff and the glasses and everything like that, yes, it is cool, and I love this new technology, but it's so exclusive to the one or potentially 2 people that are kind of it doesn't feel like a combined experience.
Well, we were thinking of getting some people around and watching a bunch of porn. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, why not?
We were thinking of getting a bunch of people around.
We started this podcast off with child porn.
True.
We can't go much further
We were
down.
talking about Pirates. The movie Pirates.
The pirate porn movie, yes.
No, actually, we were talking about the Avatar porn movie. And saying that
there's an Avatar porn movie.
Did you not know that?
You know what? Of course there is.
Okay, I may have downloaded it.
Is it in 3D?
It is. It can be bought in 3D. Now, the reason I downloaded it, which wasn't the 3D version, it was the 2D, of course, was because I had to answer one question.
Are they blue everywhere?
That is the exact question that I had to know. And how did they handle...
And?
You know what? I'm not going to tell you.
Fuck you! I didn't even want to know anyway. No, fucking tell me!
No, I'm not going to tell you for 2 reasons. One is because it's going to shit you. And the other is because it's going to shit everyone else.
Prick.
Anyway, we were talking about that and how entertaining it is, the concept of 3D porn.
Sure,
and Dahlia was like, "Yeah, people should come around and we'll watch it on the TV and we'll get 3D glasses and blah blah blah." I'm like, "How many people were you gonna invite around for this?" She's like, "I don't know, 15, 20." I'm like, "Are you gonna buy each of them a set of the glasses?"
Yeah, that's gonna add up.
Yeah,
these aren't like your old school red and blue sort of crappy popcorn.
No,
3D
they're about
glasses.
they're about $80 each.
I think that was actually something else that Sony announced was cheaper.
Before
3D
we
glasses.
do that, can we go back to the Avatar porn?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Why even move off it?
Did you know as well, in association with whatever company is responsible for this particular product, they also released an official Avatar fleshlight that's this like triangular vagina, so that you can have the full 3D experience plus.
Jesus Christ. Is it blue?
Yes.
So they are blue everywhere?
Maybe not in the film, though. They may have cheaped out.
I'm sorry. My eye's really itchy. Do you know what happened today? This is completely off topic.
Yeah, of course.
I was walking from your place back to the Manor Bar. As I was walking along the street, along Robinson Street, this is inner city, suburban sort of area. I'm not walking through a park with massive trees and it's like you're asking for it. There's a bird perched on the ground, probably about like 5 or 6 meters away. I'm walking past it. As I walk past it, the bird flies straight towards me and attacks the side of my face.
Really?
Yeah, for like about 2 seconds, then flies right back to where it was and just pops back down and just sits there. I'm just like, what the fuck just happened? I got attacked by a bird for no reason, and I wasn't the only one there. There was a bunch of other people standing around and walking past as well. It just targeted me.
Wow.
I know.
I know you're no ornithologist or anything, but what kind of bird?
Like a magpie-ish looking thing. Like a thing. I don't
Possibly
know.
a magpie then.
Yeah, possibly.
Because they are magpie-ish.
Well, yeah, okay. No, I don't think it was a magpie because its beak wasn't as big as a magpie. If it was the size of a magpie, I wouldn't have an eye now.
Right.
But it just... What the fuck, man? I don't have a laptop right now. Just rub it in, why don't you? It's just...
You know what I think that bird was thinking?
What?
That guy doesn't have a laptop. I'm going to get him. I don't know why.
Birds
are dicks.
Yeah, anyway. Keep going. Continue. Back to the Avatar porn.
No, while we're talking... I want to segue now. While we're talking about big birds...
Is this a segue to something?
Yes, it is.
Right.
You know what game interests me about the most out of all the things I've seen for Kinect?
The Sesame Street game?
The Sesame Street game.
I
just think it looks fucking cool.
Okay.
And I think, Tim Schafer, personally responsible for it. The man knows how to make a game. And the Sesame Street characters and the Sesame Street kind of universe is just such a fun one. I could see this being really cool fun.
Yep.
If the games involved and the experience isn't too simple and too kiddie, it could actually be really quite fun, especially to play with a kid.
Okay. No, fair enough.
I just wanted to mention that.
Yep. Cool.
And the Big Bird thing.
Yeah, no, good segue. Yeah, nice there. Back to Sony. And moving on from the Avatar porn, I think that's the point.
Do we want to talk about the Vita?
Yeah. Well, look, I've never owned a PSP before or a PSP Go.
I bought one at launch, but I've never upgraded it.
Matt has more experience with them. Probably the only real thing that kind of interests me any further is the touchpad on the back of the system.
Yeah, I know. There's a touch. The screen, of course, is touch, and the back is touch.
Yeah,
it's really interesting because the problem I've always had with things like the iPhone is that in order to use it, you have to block half the fucking screen.
One of the other cool things about having a touchpad on the back is when playing games, you do have 4 fingers that aren't utilised.
Yeah, they're just hanging out.
I mean, they're holding the controller, but there's no reason why you can't do extra stuff with them. And that actually, I think that's quite some potentially cool functionality. I mean, some of the little demos they showed, like Little Big Planet, like you know, the character's moving along and you touch the back of it to move some blocks towards the screen. To get puzzle solving and things like that.
I think when you add this kind of hardware and you add this kind of potential, you really open the ability for developers to use it in really interesting ways. And I think it'll take a little while before we start to see that, but I could see there being some quite clever innovations. I do think it's probably a gimmick, though, and I don't think
most of these things start off as gimmicks, and then I think the more people that actually utilise them, and the more people that have the hardware, of course,
I guess so.
justify developers actually putting more time and effort into it.
I guess so. I mean, you think of something like the iPhone, for example. Could you imagine if they had a touch screen on the back of that?
Think of something like the Wii. When the Wii was first announced, gimmick sort of thing, and still. But anyway, well, the Echo really didn't. Yeah, wasn't going anywhere with that. So the PlayStation Vita, I'm trying to think of other things from the PlayStation conference that really stood out to me, but nothing much. The Resistance really didn't. No, not overly interested in that.
The Vita was their big ticket.
I did think it was cool how they did show off BioShock Infinite. They did have Ken Levine from Irrational that actually came and talked a bit about it, and. What was cool about that was they got him to actually talk about the Move. I thought it was quite bold of them to get this independent developer to get up at a Sony press conference and talk about BioShock Infinite and the Move, because his actual explanation was I did an interview with a journalist a couple of months ago where I pretty much bagged the shit out of the Move and said it's not worth our time. Yeah. And a couple of days later, got a call from Sony. And, talking to Sony, they were like, would you like to know a bit more about the Move? We can tell you a bit more about it. And he was like, look, our games don't really do this, where he's swinging it around like a tennis racket, or this, like shifting around like a dancing game. That's not our games. We do this, and they just is holding up a controller. We do core games. He actually said that. We do core games, serious games. And Sony pitched it to him in the sense of, but there's no reason you can't, don't dilute that control mechanism or system, but what if you could actually open up the experience of BioShock Infinite, the story of the game, the gameplay and everything like that, to people that aren't comfortable using the, typical controllers and would actually like a different interface of actually playing it. Don't dumb it down. just have a different option, to have some alternatives.
Yeah.
And he took to that quite well. Anyway, don't get me wrong. Maybe they just gave him a fat pile of cash to get up on stage and say, yeah, but probably not.
Yep, no, probably not. And I think that's a really interesting idea, the idea of providing control options. The question is whether those control options actually just end up being more awkward than playing it.
Well, the last thing you want is a kill zone situation on Bioshock.
Yeah, well, you're better off without it.
But the flip side is then you don't have to use it.
No, you don't, but why do it at all?
Well, I don't know.
Anyway, so Sony didn't really have much else that jumps to mind.
Not really. The TV, the Vita, and some other Move stuff. A couple of games like Resistance and things like that, but nothing. It was. They
did show a bit of more of Uncharted 3 though.
Yes, they did, and that looks awesome.
Yeah, Uncharted 3 is definitely going to be a must-have. I'm very keen for that.
Probably the only other thing that interested me was they did have one of the Capcom guys actually coming on show a bit more of Street Fighter versus Tekken, including the PlayStation Vita version, which features Cole from Infamous. As one of the playable characters, which I think is kind of cool.
I'm dubious on the Tekken X Street Fighter thing.
Really? Why? It looks awesome. Why would you be dubious about it?
Because they have completely different control mechanisms, and I'm concerned that I'll end up being forced into Street Fighter mode for Tekken, which is I'm not that keen on.
Buy Tekken versus Street Fighter.
Yeah, well, I'll buy whichever one appeals to me at the time.
Right.
See, there was also announcements, and this is a little off topic, but there was also announcements of Street Fighter 5, which we knew was coming, but they showed a bit more of it. And some of the comments that I saw of it were that it's going to be faster, quicker game, lighter game, and taking a lot of hints from Street Fighter 4. Which...
Hold on, Street Fighter 5? You mean Soul Calibur 5, right?
No, Street Fighter.
Street Fighter 5 is going to be taking notes from Street Fighter 4.
No, Soul Calibur will be taking notes from Street Fighter.
You said Street Fighter 5. What's coming out? Street Fighter 5 or Soul Calibur 5? Soul Calibur 5, thank you. You said Street Fighter 5.
I said Street Fighter... Sorry, I said Soul Calibur will be taking notes from Street Fighter, I think that's what I said.
You didn't.
Okay, sorry to confuse you.
Soul Calibur 5 is coming out. For a second, I'm like, hold on, Street Fighter 5.
Okay.
I haven't heard of that, but I'll run with this so I don't sound like an idiot.
No, sorry, Soul Calibur. I was thinking of Street Fighter because...
Of course.
Of that
so
comment.
It's faster and it's taking notes from Street Fighter 4. Fair enough.
No, that's not fucking fair enough. To me, that's like saying, I am dating Shakira.
Yep.
But I really wish she had a bit more Miley Cyrus. You've taken something beautiful and put tard in it, and I'm not okay with it. I'm really not.
There's nothing wrong with them saying it. We'd like it to be a bit faster though, or like taking elements. It's not going to change the entire mechanism, and plus,
it fucking is.
Soul Calibur.
They've got like super megas now.
Yeah,
they're going to have like double quarter circle and then thing, and then it does the giant mega. That's not the fucking game, and it never was, and it's shits me.
Well, maybe Soul Calibur 4 didn't do that well, so they need to reinvent the franchise.
Yeah, but it had one thing that was important. It wasn't fucking Street Fighter 4.
Well, you really don't like Street Fighter.
It's alright, but I don't want every game to be Street Fighter just because that was successful.
Well, okay, fair
Fighting games have different styles and different feels, and I've always liked the feel of Tekken and the feel of Street Fighter. Sorry, of Soul Calibur, damn it. And the feel of the Soul Calibur series, and I don't want to see them turn into Street Fighter just because that's got some sort of market dominance.
They won't turn into it. Street Fighter will just
They're homogenizing. I don't want them to homogenize.
There'll be a Street Fighter versus Soul Calibur. There'll be a Street Fighter versus Soul Calibur versus Tekken versus Marvel versus DC.
It's just put everything that's ever hit another thing.
Yeah, I'm sure there's actually images of that up online where there's like the player
but they're probably making out.
Player select screen that's just
everything.
Massive. Yeah. But anyway, nothing else from the Sony conference particularly stood out to me.
Let's jump on to Nintendo.
Nintendo, of course. And they had a beautiful conference that opened up fantastically with like the opening theme music from all the Zelda games and things like this. Their two biggest things was obviously showcasing more capabilities and games on the 3DS.
Indeed.
And the announcement of their new console.
And just before we jump onto the new console, because that's obviously the big item, I want to say for the record, I've been criticised recently for being down on Nintendo.
No matter what they do.
Yeah. I'm always like, no, Nintendo, and at risk of turning into Yahtzee, and that's not something I would want.
No.
But I do have to say, for Nintendo, the 3DS, some of the games coming on the 3DS, particularly the new Mario game they announced. I can't remember what it's called. So Mario does a thing.
I think it's just Super Mario Brothers or Super Mario 3D.
It's had some sort of very generic name, but it's basically. I think you're probably saving Princess in some way.
From Bowser,
possibly.
Maybe.
Yeah. It looks fucking good. It does look amazing. Quite keen to play it.
Okay, cool.
Just gonna say that.
I do like it. No, I can't remember from the trailer. It's got the Taguchi suit. The raccoon suit thing, but it's in the original Super Mario Brothers 3, when you actually got that, you turned into a statue. I didn't see him turn into a statue in this particular.
Okay.
Do you know that mechanic?
No, not really. I never played a lot of Mario.
Okay, Mario 3, you could actually get different suits. So you could get a frog suit or...
Yeah.
It was called a Tamagotchi. Not Tamagotchi. Something else. Someone is going to correct me and sound fucking stupid or whatever.
Undoubtedly.
But this particular suit, you could at any point hold... I think down and press jump, and you would turn into a statue, where any of the enemies would just walk past you, and you wouldn't get damaged or hit or touched.
Oh, okay.
Which was kind of cool. And this is the exact same suit, to the point where the tail from the suit is in the logo.
Right.
So obviously it's going to play a big part. But it does look cool, and I appreciate that they're actually doing something, new levels and a new kind of game, and it does look much more almost Super Mario Galaxy-ish.
Yeah, it does. It looks very cool. And I also think it should be mentioned that there's a new Luigi's Mansion game coming out. I really enjoyed Luigi's Mansion. I thought it was one of the better games on the GameCube. Particularly for a launch title, I thought it was a launch title.
It was a launch title, yes.
And I think Luigi's always been a little bit sort of stuck in the shadow of his big brother.
Well, but I mean, so?
Whatever. I just thought it was a fun game. I enjoyed it, and I think I'll enjoy this one again as well. I think it looks really good.
All right. Do you know that apparently there's a scene in Luigi's Mansion where you walk into one of the rooms and there's lightning flashing through the window, casting a shadow on the wall of what is undoubtedly an image of Mario hanging from a noose.
Really?
Yeah.
Dark.
Yeah, I know.
But don't you find Mario at the end of that?
I don't know. I just saw that on YouTube. And it's on YouTube, so it must be true.
Right? No, it's true. Yeah. There's no way to fake that sort of thing.
And there's obviously stuff about the new Mario Kart, which is Mario Kart. God bless it. And now it's got hang gliding bits, and you can go underwater and stuff. And I don't know what extra elements they could possibly add to a Mario Kart game, apart from things like that, without actually breaking the formula that actually works really well. Because the whole point of Mario Kart is pick up and play. You don't want to add so much to a game that it then stops being pick up and play. And you have to have a new Mario Kart on every new Nintendo console.
I think it's law, isn't it?
I do think so.
Yeah.
That has all the original tracks from the old games as well, so people can.
Really?
Well, I don't know if this one. I'm just assuming it has to.
Really?
That's what happens.
The rainbow.
It has to have the donut planes, the Grand Prix.
No, it'll have to have the settings, but I'm not sure it'll have the tracks.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll see.
We'll see.
And also the more footage of Kid Icarus.
Yeah, Kid Icarus looks really good, actually.
Looks cool.
It's not too far off either, unlike the others.
No. So lots of good stuff on the 3DS. Also, they've unlocked their browsing stuff.
Yeah,
so you can actually browse it now and everything like that, which is cool.
Worth an update now if you've got one and you haven't updated it for a little while.
I wanted to see more augmented reality stuff. I wished they'd do more with that, and also a bit more with the Street Pass stuff. But
not yet.
It doesn't seem so.
Then there's the
Nintendo Wii U. I love how Reggie was actually.
They announced a fire truck.
I love.
Wii U.
I love. Do you reckon the next one will be the Wii U 2?
Maybe.
Yeah. I love how Reggie actually announced it. He's up on stage. He's like, "When Wii is all about we collaboratively together, and now we're about you.
It's also about you,
and it's also about we and you." I'm like, no shit. It's
about some people.
Yeah.
It's mostly played by humans.
Look, I think surely we've all gotten to the point now where, we've kind of gotten over the fact that Nintendo have stupid names for their consoles. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But their consoles are, I was skeptical about the Wii. I was skeptical about the DS. Even skeptical about the 3DS. So I've just given up being skeptical now, and I'm just already jumped to the conclusion that this will be
a massive hit. Everyone will love it.
But what do you actually think about the tech? First of all, the actual technical specifications of the console itself, which is going to be backwards compatible with all the Wii games, is about, from what I've been told, on par, if not a bit better than like your PlayStation 3.
That I've heard as well. I've heard very little more information than that about the console, which is a concern to me, and I'd like to hear more.
One thing I kind of have heard through other sources is that the core... this might mean something to other people. The core processor is slightly less than the PlayStation 3, but there's other elements in the console that are much more, which means that it could potentially, you could get more out of it by optimizing the games better for it.
Well, CPU isn't that big a limitation anymore anyway. No. It's mostly about the graphics.
But the main thing that it allows, and was shown in the Nintendo conference, was cross-platform games. We're talking like your Darksiders 2 and... all these...
it stops being the PlayStation 3 and Xbox, and then the Wii.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what it's at the moment.
Yeah, and it did seem like they did like a concerted effort to actually target your more hardcore core gamers sort of thing, which I thought was great.
We should probably talk a little bit more about the actual controller, which is really the big thing. That's what they pushed on the little spiel, was this controller. The controller is probably best described as some sort of Game Boy.
Oh, really? I actually thought it's an iPad with triggers.
I guess it's a bit small for an iPad.
Okay, well...
It's mid between an iPad and an iPhone.
And it's got the touch screen in the middle of it, and you hold it on the side, and it's got the triggers on the back, and your typical buttons where your thumbs are.
Thumbsticks and...
Yeah.
There's not much more to say than that, but it's full of gyroscopes and accelerometers and all that kind of stuff.
It's got all that standard stuff.
Cameras.
Yep. Does it? Really?
Yeah, there's a back camera. That's how it shows through stuff on the screen.
Okay, yep. There was a video that obviously a typical Nintendo video with everyone being happy and them showing such standard stuff like...
Suspiciously attractive looking people in these groups.
But some of the cool features are if you're playing the game on your actual TV and someone wants to come in and say, the football's about to start or whatever, you can pretty much just transfer the image of that game to the Wii U controller and just keep playing it.
Yep.
Which I think is kind of cool.
The logical thought to me is that it's not actually playing on the Wii U. It's brought
just
using it as a
broadcasting
screen.
The image. Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I guess that might be good. You would obviously lose the experience, between.
But if you still want to keep playing the game, I actually think that's a kind of cool.
It's thing. Cool. It's cool, and there's a lot about it that's potentially very cool.
They showed a lot of how it could interact. You're right. It does have that camera on the back. They were showing a baseball game.
Yeah.
And someone hits the ball and it flies up to the air, and you've got to kind of track the ball with the Wii U controller to catch it in the mid.
Someone else who's pitching the ball can pitch more accurately by getting a little cursor on the.
There was there was a retarded example of a golf game where you put the Wii U controller on the ground so you can see the ball in the dirt.
Yeah.
When you go to hit it, that's.
Yeah, that was silly.
That was silly.
But there was a lot. There's a lot of potential to the sheer number of things it can do.
Also, they showed some footage from a potential Zelda kind of game where you actually have your inventory that's shown on the.
It seems to me that any game with menus or inventory that can use that sort of technology will benefit, and would be cool. That would be very, very awesome.
I did talk to some people that whinge that it kind of takes you out of the immersive experience of the game having an inventory in your controller.
That's ridiculous.
I think it's ridiculous. Well, I think that's actually...
It takes you out of the immersive nature of the game if you've got an inventory at all.
Exactly.
And that, to me, the ability to look down at your shit
and interact with it directly as well, quite easily.
And interact with it directly and easily, and then look back up at the game is a lot less immersion breaking than going to the inventory menu.
What I think is cool is with your games that are going to be across all three platforms, as opposed to your motion control or Kinect or Move, the Wii U controller actually offers more, depending on how they utilize it, it could be the system of choice for a game that's across three platforms.
That controller could add more.
Yeah.
Than
imagine like Ghost Recon, which is another game that's going to be coming on the Wii U sort of thing. So you get the Wii U version of the Ghost Recon game, and you've actually got the ability to coordinate your squad, positions or tactical layouts on the Wii U, or even something as simple and basic as Aliens Colonel Marines, where you've got on your Wii U is the typical alien HUD.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
With the little dots. I didn't actually see it do that, but that is something so simple.
Yeah, you're right.
That I would want that version of the game on the Wii U, just because that's cool, and the other consoles wouldn't have that. So I think there's a lot of potential.
No, yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot of potential. My biggest concern about it is the cost. I can see it being quite an expensive device.
I got another one for you. Have you thought about this?
Yes.
So if 4 people want to play the Wii U using 4 of those controllers.
Yeah. Yeah, do you have to buy 4 of those fucking things? Because if they are going to be expensive, that is a problem. It seems to me that most of what they were showing was like people... one person playing it or 2 people with it.
Didn't see multiple versions of it. No.
Which makes me wonder if maybe you can't have more than 2. It could be fun though to have certain types of games where, like, imagine playing a puzzle game or something like that, or like a strategy game where you can control your own moves and then the overall board is, that would be fun. I can see that being good.
I think there is a lot of potential for it. That could easily be implemented in your games that are across all three systems as well. But apart from that, they did show a tech demo of a bird flying through trees, and it's all very pretty and stuff like that. And they showed like a lot of the third-party games, but nothing really amazing. They certainly didn't show any of their first-party games, unless that Zelda example was one. I don't think it was.
No, I don't know. I thought it was a tech demo, but
they didn't really. There was no other particular games on the new Nintendo console that really stood out. A lot of stuff on the 3DS, and that's great. That's great because the 3DS doesn't have much at the moment.
We've been sent quite a bit of PR about people bringing out games. A lot of the popular franchises. One that was sent to us today, I actually posted on AG, which is Mutant Freaks. I think Mutant Freaks from Outer Space.
Okay.
And it just looks like a kind of generic shooter, but it looks quite fun.
On the 3DS or?
No, it'll be a launch title for the Wii U.
Right, okay.
Because that's, they've announced an awful lot of support for it, but it's hard to tell whether they're announcing some companies that are going to make a game eventually.
Yeah.
Or, this is a full
And Nintendo kind of has a little bit of a reputation now for releasing hardware and then kind of staggering the release of software over a long period of time.
If ever.
Yeah.
I will be interested to see a launch list and a list of actual games coming out over the next year, or year or 2 after its launch.
Yeah.
Rather than just yay, everyone will make games.
Yeah, of course. So that was the big 3 at E3. Wow, we kind of have rambled on through that.
It's been a very long podcast. Yeah. We don't actually get together, but we're actually almost at an hour now.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, did you not realise?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I'm having fun. Ooh. The time is just flying. God, if we keep this up, we'll practically be a Gap podcast.
Oh!
No, we're not rambling that much.
No, it's not that stupid.
Anyway, just quickly then, were there any other, outside of the press conference, any other games or footage or things that you saw from E3 that did actually leap out and press you and go, that looks cool, or I'm excited about this?
But before we do that, can we quickly
Nintendo.
Wrap up on who won?
Nintendo.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Nintendo as well.
Yep, I'd say Nintendo
Sony's
first.
fighter looks cool, but it's offset with them fucking up in the first place. And we already knew most of it anyway. But Nintendo, I think, this time.
I think they did. They had new hardware to show. They had a good lineup of games for the 3DS. It was exciting, and their press conference was presented in a really cool way as well.
It was.
With the music. And it's just, maybe I'm just always going to give it to Nintendo because Reggie's just so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Reggie!
Yeah.
Microsoft didn't fuck up, and it was a solid press conference. Happy with them. Sony, I think they did as good as they could possibly do. They played it very safe. I think there's some really cool... Sony actually did all right, all things considered.
Yeah.
You're just bitter about them in general.
I am bitter. Do you know why I'm bitter? And I will tell you why I'm bitter, and I won't even give you a chance to ask.
Why are you bitter?
Because I had a PS3 not that long ago get the yellow light of death, which is the equivalent of a red ring.
There's yellow light of death?
Yeah, they have a yellow light, and it basically means is fucked. So we needed a PS3 straight away. Didn't have time to get it fixed because Yahtzee needed to review something. So he went out and bought a PlayStation Slim, and it lasted 6 months, and it's died now too. Fuck you guys. Honestly, Sony, seriously. I wrote a very long article a while ago on how Sony hardware is amazing, but their software is shit and they need to work on it. I may have to retract half of that.
You know, just on the flip side here, I do just want to say that we've had 5 PlayStation 3s in the Manor Bar that are, at least 2 or 3 of them, are on 7 days a week, 7 to 12 hours a day, in a very harsh environment, and they're still going strong. That's over the last year.
Have you had any Red Ring of Deaths? Right. Maybe. The Red Ring of Death situation.
Yes, we have. As a matter of fact, we had one, not our first one, but not many. We haven't had many, but we did have one today.
Oh, really?
Which was bad timing because we had Duke on all 3 screens, all 5 screens, on all 5 Xboxes. So I had to run down to the storage and get another Xbox.
Right.
But yeah, we've had a few red rings, but they're also not the new black consoles. They're the older Xboxes. But PlayStation consoles and the Nintendo Wii's, not had a single problem with them.
Apparently, the issue that we're having...
They are PlayStation Slims that we've got as well, by the way.
Yeah. There's a drive issue with them. There's a Blu-ray drive issue that can come up with them.
Oh, right, okay.
Which is what we got. It simply won't load drives, won't load discs. So I'm interested to see if anyone else... Because I did a bit of Googling, and it turns out that we're not alone in that. That's not an uncommon problem. Okay. So I'd be interested to hear if anyone else has had similar issues.
Yeah.
Or whether we just had shit luck, which is entirely possible.
Possible. I mean, it is you and Yahtzee. You both deserve it.
We do. Really. The karma, if nothing else,
exactly.
means that we're not only going to get a red ring of console issues, but hit by a truck.
Yeah, one can only hope. Was there anything else out of E3?
I wanted to talk quickly about Terra. I've seen video of a game called Terra. I can't remember. I think it stands for something, but basically it's an MMO. It differs from a lot of the fantasy MMO kind of genre in that everything's action based rather than roller dice. Sure. It's not here's what the numbers. You can duck out of the way. You can dodge. You have to aim, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
I think there's potential in that, and it looks fucking stunning. So I'll be interested to give that more of a look.
Cool.
There have been a lot of videos of games, and I recommend looking at Australian Gamer first because it's your choice of gaming news, but also game trailers have everything up there. And
sure.
There's lots of cool videos.
I actually went through and we had an E3 event at the Manor Bar the other night, and I downloaded as many trailers as I could possibly find to play on the projector, and skimmed through them, sort of thing. I'm like, and got a really good idea and clear picture of a lot of the games and products that were actually being shown at E3.
Yeah.
And was kind of shocked. Let's be honest. I tended to give things the benefit of the doubt and get overly excited at fuck all. Things that are shiny. Oh my god, that's amazing. I'm usually not overly skeptical or cynical.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Really?
No, nothing that I watched was like... Yeah, nothing was like, oh wow, that's amazing. I can't wait for that. Everything was like, meh.
See, I have to say that the games that appeal to me the most and the games that interest me the most are some of the ones that are coming quite soon.
Yeah, very much so.
Like Deus Ex.
Deus Ex is a huge one for me. For me, it kind of comes down to L.A. Noire was a big one I was looking forward to. Duke Nukem is a big one I'm looking forward to. L.A. Noire this year. Yeah. Infamous 2 actually came out this week. I'm actually genuinely excited to play that because I loved the first one. Fuck Prototype. But out of the E3...
There's there's a game called El Shaddai they were showing as well.
Yep.
I've seen... That's really huge in Japan. When we were in Tokyo, it was everywhere, and it was really popular to the point where you could get official jeans. You could get like pants from the game.
Awesome. Okay.
Which I should have done. I didn't. I'm like, it's just pants.
You regret that?
I do. It's the sort of thing that, it's not like they're around often.
Another game that's coming out next week, Alice. Madness Returns, by the way.
Before you jump off El Shaddai, the demo came out today on Xbox Live. So if anyone's interested in that, the visual style of it's amazing. Xbox Live, have a look.
Cool.
Maybe on the PlayStation Store, but I don't know. I'm having trouble getting my PlayStation to connect to the network at the moment. So
wow, you're just anti-Sony all the way right now.
No, that's probably my fault.
You're a Sony hater. You're a Sony basher. You're such a Nintendo fanboy.
Really?
You love Nintendo.
Whatever.
You gave them the best prize at E3. I don't know.
I know you are.
Yeah,
I do know you are. I think for putting up with this whole thing, we should give the listeners, not viewers, a bit of a treat, which is that I will in fact tell them whether the genitals are blue in Avatar,
and
they are not. They cheeked
out. I figured as much, because really, I mean, with that much friction and it's going to rub off, and it's not going to look pretty.
That was why I wanted to. I'm like, how are they going to handle the paint removal issue?
Yeah,
and they just didn't.
Not the paint removal, the paint putting on,
the paint getting in,
getting in.
I see that being a problem.
Well, they'd have to paint inside a bit.
Yeah, you would think,
to make it authentic.
Yeah, and could they change it so it looks different? Do you put spikes on the boys? Like what?
No, just glitter. You just make it sparkle.
Really? No,
I don't know.
Anyway,
I'm not the producer of the film, so I don't deal with these problems on a day-to-day basis.
You should.
Well, yeah, if I did, I'd be.
Where are you going with this?
I have no idea. Wherever it is, I don't want to actually follow through with it. So anyway,
I want to go now because I'm very hungry.
Yeah, I'm going to go and eat as well.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys later. Thank you for sticking with us for such a long podcast, but I figure we don't catch up very often, and it was C3, so double trouble, big podcast.
Yay. I don't know. My mind's going a little bit crazy.
Thanks for having my back there and keeping up the vibe.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll talk to you again some other time.
See you later, guys.
See ya.